I, Shivang Joshi and Shivansh Bansal, founders of Law Community, brings you Advocate Divya Srinivasan. She has an immense experience in the field of IPR and worked as a policy consultant. She has diversely worked to spread awareness in IPR. We are here to have an interaction with her and know more about her journey through this interaction.
Why did you opt law as a career? And please tell us more about your law school experience.
Okay. So, just to briefly introduce, I'm an only child and I'm a first generation lawyer in my family. So, I don't have any lawyers in the family because they're all either science experts or commerce experts. I'm an only child to now retired government officer father and a senior travel executive mother. So I had working parents, and because they were so good at balancing personal and professional. So I think balancing personal and professional life was one of the first tenets that I learned from my parents. Moving on, taking up law was just a random choice actually. I had standard when it was I did not want to do science. I knew that I did not want to do commerce because maths and chemistry, I despised these subjects as a child. And I think to an extent I still despise these subjects today. So I completed my schooling from Convent of Jesus and Mary, Delhi. It's a girls' convent school, and during the end of my, in the middle of my 10th standard, I realized that my forte was more into social sciences, humanities, and that is what I wanted to pursue. But I had not decided as to what I wanted to do after 12th. So my parents were very helpful and were very supportive. So they told me to choose whatever I wanted to do and go for something professional. So I had two options around at that time in my mind. It was either journalism, basically travel writing, or law. So honestly, I didn't give it much thought. Even at that time, law was my second option. But I was very fond of writing, so maybe I thought maybe I could just explore both of these, research about them, talk to people. So my father had a couple of connections, uh, lawyers in the field. So I spoke to them and I tried to understand law as a career. So that's how it interested me, the courtroom drama, the stories that they had of their litigation experience. That is the only thing that I knew about law. So I envisioned myself as a criminal lawyer immediately back then, that maybe I would do well in that field. But that's how it was, just purely out of coincidence. So that's how I thought of law. After my 12th standard, I gave a lot of exams, including CLAT and other private universities. One thing that my parents were very sure. So, so after I joined UPES Dehradun, there were it was totally different experience for me. I was fresh out of a 13-year-long journey with which was a girls' convent, and immediately I was thrown into a co-ed experience, which was of course great. Plus, it was away from home, so at that time, freedom meant something else, away from parents, breaking rules, no in time, no out time, bunk karo. So, of course, minus that, it was a new field of law that I did not have knowledge about because my course had a specialization in energy laws. And at that time, oil and gas was, a boom in the economy. There was a lot happening in that field. So in 2009, when I joined law, slowly and steadily, we were, as compared to other law courses in India, we had more subjects because we started dealing with energy law related subjects from first semester onwards. So I read about aerospace law, I read about avionics law, then there was road laws, transport laws, upstream and downstream. So these were all new to me, and again, they had a slight connection with science and mathematics, which I hated. But thankfully I had good professors who were experts in these fields, so it was easy to manage through. During my time in UPS, I ensured that I dabbled into a lot of areas. So apart from IP, even though IP was the first thing that intrigued me as a subject, but it was taught in fourth and fifth year only. But I had a chance internship at SS Rana, because I had applied to Delhi Legal Services Authority for an internship, but their slots got full, so I couldn't get through at that time. So in a last moment, I obviously couldn't sit at home idle. So that's why I joined the IP law firm, even though I was just a first year student. But the experience I had at SS Rana changed my life for the better. So I knew for sure that IP is what I want to do, and IP is the field where I want to become an expert in. So that's how the interest in IP began. But just to be on the safer side, and I had my seniors also, everybody, including my parents and experts in the field, they all told me to not limit myself, since I had another 4 years to explore other fields. So they told me you can decide at a later stage, because that's the beauty of being a lawyer. You can dabble into any field, get an exposure, and keep jumping here and there, and eventually decide what you want to do. So I interned at a lot of other legal areas like environmental law, corporate law.
You have been part of various internship programs, right? So can you
Yeah.
share some internship plan for the law students who want to follow your footprints?
Right. So, okay, very honestly, at that time, actually, what happened was there were two types of people. One was NLU grads, NLU people, and the other one was non-NLU. So, even though I used to write emails to a lot of law firms, I remember when I used to apply for summer internships, I applied to around 70 to 75 firms, and I got rejection letters from so many. I had forgotten the count, and some of them didn't even bother to reply. And one or two used to bother to reply saying that their slots were full, etc. So instead of the 6 month expedition that people generally use to apply for internships, I started applying a year in advance. I started constantly. I shouldn't term it as harassment, but yes, I followed up with the HR. I started calling them up constantly. I At that time LinkedIn was still new, so I didn't know how to use LinkedIn that well at that time. But I got email IDs through Google, and I started approaching them via email. I started dropping emails to partners. I started dropping emails to the managing partner. So whichever email ID I could get my hands on, I started dropping emails to them. So the first key is perseverance. You cannot apply for an internship a month in advance or 2 weeks before. That just shows that you're lazy, and you nobody will take you seriously. And even though now things have improved really, we didn't have many lawyers in the field, because when I gave CLAT, there were just about 13,000, 14,000 people who gave CLAT. So law was still new, and mostly people were there into litigation and all, not so much into corporate and all, or IP or cyber. So dheere dheere all these. So like I said, the first important tenet here is perseverance. Don't lose hope if you get rejection letters. Trust me, I've also been on the other side. It's difficult to get through because law firms always get a lot of emails, especially from interns, as well as job applications. So the HR is usually busy with the general organization structure and everything, uh, and related work. But sorting these applications out for them is also difficult. But thankfully, I was what do you say? I was that annoying person who used to keep dropping emails after every week. Then I started reducing the timeline. So first I used to follow up for like 15 in 15 days. Then I reduced it to 14, then around 10 days, then 7 days. Then I started dropping emails every day. But of course, you have to ensure that now, of course, you'll directly get into spam. At that time, it wasn't that bad. So the second tenet is follow up. If you don't follow up, your application is just going to be one of those thousands of applications. And you need to talk and inculcate a self-learning attitude, in the sense that when you follow up, show them your interest, show them that you really really want to intern at that particular place, and show that interest in a professional way. Don't start bugging them, because that's how I did it. Even though I used to bug them on emails, but when I spoke to them, I spoke like a professional. So sometimes you will get through, sometimes you won't, but the main thing is don't lose heart. So that's how I scored all my internships. And you must have seen, I interned at Vesh thrice. So Vesh was one of the most enriching internship experiences of my life. I made a lot of lifelong friends over there. I'm still in touch with them. They attended my marriage. I'll be attending theirs. So that's how important internship experiences are. Not only do you get to meet co-interns from other law schools, but you also get to learn things from their college's point of view, you know. And you form these bonds, and then you learn the value of teamwork, because everybody is seen as one unit. And then the people at the law firm or the organization, they start picking and choosing one by one as per the expertise or whatever skills that you have to offer. So during these internships, the third thing that I would say is start building your skill set at an early stage. If you like research, read a lot. If you like writing, look at a lot of blog posts, maybe in a specific area of interest, or otherwise you can keep your areas of interest open, but read, try and understand how things are written from a certain point of view. When you read a blog, don't formulate your opinion based on that blog, because blogs are generally one person's or a particular organization's opinion. So try and formulate your own opinions, see both sides of the coins. Basically try have an individual viewpoint to everything. And before doing that, of course, research, read as much as you can about a certain subject, so that you can come to an informed opinion, because nobody likes faffers, people who just faff on the face and have no idea about what they're talking about, because anybody can cut you off. Anybody will figure out, a person who has knowledge in that domain will know when you're faffing. So try not to faff, be professional, and of course, perseverance is the key to everything. So that's how I scored all my internships. I used to write a lot of emails, but now, of course, things are better. But yes, a certain this trajectory can be followed. Follow up. Don't get disheartened, because sometimes law firms are busy. And one more thing I would also like to say, that don't always go for big names. Try working for medium and even small entities, because the kind of work that they have, the exposure that they have, you'll get to learn a lot. So that is something that I didn't go for. At that time, I only worked for medium firms. At that time, these were all medium firms. I didn't run after big names. So I do have some firms that are not very well known. So yeah, I didn't chase after big names, because I knew these people don't read my emails and they will never read my emails. So it's all right. So I'd rather target, firms or organizations that will at least read my email.
So, ma'am, my next question is, how important do you think LLM plays a role in your career as an advocate and consultant?
Okay. So during my graduation, while I developed an inkling towards IP, it was important for me to understand IP at a deeper level, because during my graduation, IP is just for around 4 credits. There was just one paper. Assisted assisted in IP related matters, I realized that I didn't have enough theoretical knowledge, in-depth knowledge on IP. So that's when I decided to do LLM. Now, something important that I'd like to tell everybody here is that Generally, people who do LLM, they do it as a backup option because they feel that if nothing works out, they can definitely go for teaching after giving the UGC exam and all. But LLM is not just that. LLM, you should only pursue an LLM if you're sure that you'll stick to the same field eventually throughout your career span. So I was sure that IP is my field and that is the only field that I want to work on. So that's why I did an LLM. I was very conscious about that decision, which is why I immediately did my LLM after my graduation, because I didn't want to break the study flow. At that time, you have enough energy to learn and, be in a classroom and understand the teaching experience. And I personally felt that if I start working and then I have to take a break, maybe it will become difficult a few years down the line. So that's why I immediately pursued an LLM. But I would advise people to only pursue an LLM if they are sure that they want to utilize that learning in their career later on. Only if it's beneficial to you, then only do that. Don't do that as a backup option, because then it's just another waste of degree. And frankly, you are taking away somebody's seat. So somebody else who's worthy might miss out on a chance because you just, had a backup option and weren't too serious about it. Of course, these are just my personal opinions. Everybody is free to do whatever they want to do. But I did my LLM in IP because I knew that IP is where I wanted to be in, 10, 15, 20, 40 years down the line. That is what I wanted to pursue. So that's why I did an LLM. And right after LLM, I interned in an IP specific firm, because since I knew my theoretical knowledge is going to help me and my internship experience was in IP, that's why I thought that a law firm which is only working in IP would be a good option as opposed to a full service law firm. So I chose Lex Orbis, another medium-sized firm. I got through their 3 rounds of interviews. And right after my LLM, after 2 months, I joined Lex Orbis. And I worked there for about a year. During this time, I worked for the trademarks department mainly, but I also got the opportunity to write a lot.
So you have done various research, authored books, and creating awareness. How do you manage being an advocate and an author?
So when I used to write at that time, I was a lawyer. So I was looking at, I was managing a large clientele for my firm, and I was writing as well, because thankfully my previous organization, Lex Orbis, they had a specific department called group organizations where you could write articles for, and they were in touch with these organizations and journals and publications. So since I was always fond of writing and I did have a good hand at that, I realized that maybe I could try here as well. And during our probation in my previous organization, I don't know what the situation is now, but during my time, during my probation, each new trainee had to write articles. So, because of course, for a lawyer, you not only have to speak, you need to write well also. Even if you manage to speak normally, even if you're a reserved person, that's all right. But you need to have good drafting skills, which is why I keep reading and writing, because both these skills go hand in hand, and it'll always help you in the longer run. Even if you decide to not, even if you decide to discontinue law and get into something else. So because of that department, I got the opportunity to write. And as compared to my peers who had also joined around the same time as me, I managed to write a lot of articles because I loved writing. I realized that I loved writing. And at that time, it was difficult to manage because it was a 9-hour shift. Sometimes it would go beyond that. And then we had to manage trademark and copyright proceedings for clients also. And I not only had national clients, but I had international clients as well. So managing the time, taking out time to write was of course difficult. But since there were deadlines, what used to happen was just a week before the deadline, I would stop to write. And during the entire time, because every month there was a new publication apart from the law firm's blog. So what I used to do whenever I used to get time, whenever, and since Delhi Metro used to provide that free time, I used to read a lot of articles and see what was going on in the world, in other jurisdictions, in a particular field. So just to be abreast of whatever's happening across the world. So I used to remember all of that because I did that during my free time. I didn't cram things unnecessarily in my schedule because I knew I could not take on more than I already had on my plate. So that's what I used to do. In my free time, I used to read these things. And again, they were all related to IP, and IP is something I love. So that's why it was easy. During my free time, I used to read. And then when I used to sit down in peace and quiet to formulate an opinion and then write about things, it became easy because I'd already done a little bit background research. And then it became easy to write. So that's what I did. And because IP was always a passion, I keep repeating this because that's how important IP is to me. I love this field. And I feel that without creativity and innovation in the world, I think it'll be a barren world because there's so much to see. Everywhere we look, there's IP around us. So that's why it became easy for me to write also, because I could just pour in my thoughts, pour in whatever I've read, and then put it into a certain format and then write and get it executed. So that's how I used to manage writing and everything. Right now, I have not been able to do so much writing since a really long time. But since you asked, I am planning to start a blog and start writing about IP again. But yeah, I wanted to have publications to my name. So at that time, it was much easier.
Okay, ma'am. So my next question is, what is your opinion on the virtual court system for hearings and e-filing system and the e-filing system?
Okay.
Do you think it is effective? And as most of the lawyers are not tech savvy, how fruitful it will be in the future?
Okay. So I haven't checked out the court e-filing system because I don't have any work presently with respect to the court since I'm working with the ministry. But I have a lot of friends who are litigation lawyers, and I keep learning about their experiences. So I would say that in this field, this is still new for everybody because going digital is something that has gathered a lot of space in the past few years, and slowly and steadily things are taking a shift more towards digital. Initially it started with payments, but slowly and steadily we're moving forward to a more digitally transformed world. And plus we have these campaigns like Digital India. So it's become more of a like a competition of sorts to it's a fast-paced world out there, so everybody needs to associate themselves at that pace. So some friends of mine told me that it is difficult because there's always the problem with a network coverage. They've completed their arguments and then they realized that the judge could not hear any of their arguments. And sometimes they mention that while they're talking, the judge is saying something, but you're not able to hear. So network problem is generally, I think, a common term that I've heard a lot from my friends. But I feel that since this is still new, I feel that it'll still take some time for this to improve, if there's any improvement that is required. But we still have some way to go ahead and move ahead in this space. And with the advancements in technology, there are so many apps coming up which are making video conferencing and all easier. And frankly, nobody has envisioned a life after COVID, because now things are so difficult to see what is going to happen next year. Earlier you could make plans like a 5-year plan or a 2-year plan, but now unfortunately the world is facing such a terrible pandemic, and for countries across the world, be it developed, this problem. So I feel that it'll be too early to make a comment on the court filing system, because we still have a long way to go. And with so many startups working in the tech field, I feel that this will gain a lot of popularity and become in sync with life soon, because now everything is happening via video conference, especially in the corporate world. So maybe slowly and steadily it'll even since I work with the ministry, even for us everything has become electronic. So of course, even for government officers, it is very difficult for them to be at pace with technology, because the only technology that they use is WhatsApp. I mean, take our parents for example. If you tell them 3-4 instructions related to technology, it'll be difficult for him to comprehend everything, because technology is new for them, very new for them. So I would say that it's still too early to comment on this, but I do see a lot of improvement happening soon with the advancements in technology, and maybe with 4G or 5G coming up, maybe the network communication will might get better soon. And e-filing, I would like to add here that IP is mostly now all digital. Earlier, people used to go to the trademark registry, copyright registry, and all to file their IP applications. So imagine a person who has an invention. He has a patent application, he has a provisional specification, he has claims, he has a bunch of heavy, hefty documents. Carrying that and physically, physically filing that would have been such a humongous task. So long back itself, it was envisioned that digital is the way to move, and it will become easier for things to be on cloud and digital. So IP office is now fully digitized. So everything happens online. If there's a notice, the registry sends an examination report directly to the trademark agent or the law firm that the trademark company is being represented by, and they're contacted via mobile. And plus the IP office also has its own app now. It's still in beta mode, but they're developing it fast so that anybody can check the status of their application with a click of a button. So like I mentioned, it's the advancement can be seen. It's a little slow, yes, but considering that these are the same agencies that are not used to technology or a fast-paced environment, they are still making efforts to reach that level. So improvements are happening, but in IP specifically, it's all digitized and it's doing pretty well. Earlier, it used to take a lot of time. Now, examinations for trademark, for example, just takes a month, and you can get a trademark registration certificate in about 6 months from your filing date, which is like the fastest globally. So that has happened because of getting everything digitized and hiring more people who are more tech savvy.
What advice or suggestion would you like to give to those professionals who have just started their career in law, or to the law students who are still studying?
Okay. My first advice would be this pandemic has put all of you in I think, in a very sensitive mental state, if I can put it that way, because a lot of people have got their internships cancelled because of this pandemic. So my first advice would be hang in there. Things will get better. There are a lot of virtual internships out there, and things will get better, but don't lose heart. My second advice would be that during your law school, don't try to cram everything in just because you want to show it in your CV. Because when you go give an interview, if they ask you something related to that, you should be prepared well enough to not stutter or stammer over there. You can't tell them that हाँ बस credits extra चाहिए थे, attendance चाहिए थी, तो हमने एक moot court competition कर लिया. You can't say that. they'll easily call you out on your bluff. So do things, be in extracurriculars and co-curriculars, that's great, but don't cram your CV with too many things. And when you dabble and try and dabble into as many fields as possible, explore. Even if you don't get an opportunity to do an internship, use LinkedIn as a tool. Follow the lawyers who are doing a lot of work in that particular field of law. Like, for example, Rodney Ryder is a cyber law expert, technology law expert, right? Follow his feed. See his views and opinions about certain matters that may have come, for example. So try and see what is happening. Even if you can't secure an internship, that's okay. There's a lot to learn out there. And now during my time, there were not so many options, Now you guys have the power of social media. So utilize that, and as much as you can, try and read about something that interests you. See what is happening around the world with respect to that. And if you get a chance to do internships, do it in different fields and then finalize what you want to do. Don't go for, try and go for something out of the box. You like litigation, great. Figure out what you want to do in litigation, because litigation is a big field. Don't restrict yourself, of course, but try and find your niche. Carve a niche out for yourself and become a master in that area of expertise. Become an expert in that subject, because that'll be your one, it'll be like a tool. It'll be an extra skill set. So while you're good at A, B, C, D, E, be super amazing at, say, F. So try and dabble into different fields of law. Understand what experts from that field are saying, what are they doing, what is happening in courts. Read a lot. And thirdly, don't lie on your CV, because people find out. And try not to lie, because and make your CV impeccable. And for that, you will have to read a lot of CVs from across the world. Don't download a particular CV format from different blogs or websites or portals, because everybody almost across India is doing that. Try and be different. See other CVs from other countries, for example. You'll get a lot of samples. See how they've written their things. Know how to express yourself. Be immaculate with your writing. Don't write too much that I did this, I did that. Great, good for you. But the law firm or the lawyer is not looking for that. They want to know what your skill set is. So try and become better at how to market yourself, because your CV, that 1 to 2 pager, try and limit it to 1 page. It's all right if it goes to 2 pages, but don't make a 10-page CV. Nobody is going to read that. Keep it to 1 to 2 pages. That is your market resume. That's how, imagine yourself as a product and how you'll market yourself, and then draft your CV. So that's how you're going to do that. Just these 3 advice I would give. Otherwise, enjoy your law school. Those will be the best 5 years of your life, because when you're there where I am at right now, things are going to get really boring, and it'll be a rigmarole that you're stuck to. But college life, enjoy it thoroughly. Apart from academics and extracurricular, co-curricular, take out some time for yourself and chill also. Make good friends, have good experiences, explore. Presently, I am responsible for IPR awareness in the college and university at your level, basically, for students and faculties. So what we do is we tailor make content, because obviously a faculty will not listen to a student, right? Or somebody who's younger than them, because that's the mentality, right? They feel that, who are you to tell us what to read, what not to read? So through our organization, what we try and do is we get the experts from the top fields in IP. In IP also there are other fields, right? Patent, trademark, design, etc. So we get the experts from these fields, and then they go on and tell faculty members about the practical aspects, because whilst faculty members are well versed with the academic aspects of things, they might not know what is happening in the court, because obviously they're not representing a certain client, right? So what's happening in the legal proceedings, etc. So we tell them about that. And then of course for students also, we have these very interactive videos and presentations, because we don't want to make it boring. You already get lectures in college, so why make it boring? So we try and keep it as interactive as possible. And till date, CPAM has covered over 2200 plus programs, and we continuously keep having webinars also. So that's what CPAM does. Apart from colleges and universities, of course, we have other target groups like schools, startups, MSMEs, entrepreneurs, enforcement officials like police. We actually tell police officials what are their rights under the IP acts like copyright, trademark, and GIR. Because police, the first thing that the police officer asks us is, why should I focus on a counterfeit Reebok or an Adidas shoe? Because मेरे लिए तो murder ज़्यादा important है ना, मैं murder का वो देखूंगा कि ये देखूंगा. So we try and tell them why it's dangerous. We give them examples on how things would be different if it were to be a counterfeit drug. What if it's a counterfeit Combiflam and somebody takes it and there's medical complications? So now we've been able to inculcate IP as part of the State Police Academy curriculum also, and we've covered almost all the states in India. I think around 28 states we've covered. We still have some states to reach out to. So police has been a very initially it was a difficult audience, but now we have a good rapport with them.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for amazing interaction. It will definitely benefit a lot of young-minded people.
Thank you.
Definitely follow your footprints. You mentioned that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.